Welcome back to the Gweilo 60 channel on the streets of downtown Nanning, China, the Chaoyang district. Anyway, and I got here early because when this place opens up at around 10 o'clock in the morning, she goes nuts, gets loud, the music and whatever, but that's not what this video is about. You can see the streets of the United States. I've been watching the news a little bit lately, and it's still a little bit loud here, but I've been watching the news a little bit lately, and how America is in shambles, like serious shambles. And I compare it to China because I know China, I know the United States, I know Canada. Canada's in the same pickle. See, what happened with the United States is they took all of their tax dollars, trillions and trillions and trillions of tax dollars, and put them into bombs, put them into coups, gave it away to the Ukrainians to do proxy wars. They opened up over 800 military bases around the world. They tried to portray influence around the world through fear. As China, during that same time period, was spending the same amount, the trillions of dollars that the Americans were spending on war, were spent on infrastructure, on manufacturing, on high-speed trains, on roads, on ports, on making partners around the world in places like Saudi Arabia, Brazil, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Colombia, well, you name it, and it goes on from Malaysia to India to whatever, and you think that they've got troubles with India? Well, India's part of BRICS, guys, and now it's just sort of doubling and tripling and getting worse and worse for the United States because China has it out for the American dollar. Back in the 1970s, the United States took advantage of Saudi Arabia because they were having some financial difficulties. So they signed an agreement with the United States and Saudi Arabia that all of the oil that Saudi Arabia would sell would be sold in American dollars, thus the petrodollar, thus the global currency was the American dollar. Okay, well this month, June of 2024, that agreement expires. Oh yes, it does. And Saudi Arabia is becoming a member of BRICS. Oh yeah, you see, now over $7 trillion a year is being traded cross-border. That used to be traded in American dollars is being traded cross borders in the BRICS community per year that the Americans have nothing to do with. Oh yeah, 40% of all of the oil, I got a bug on top of my thing here, 40% of all of the oil in the world is owned by BRICS countries. 28% of all finances are BRICS countries. And the BRICS countries are growing and growing and growing. Now there's 4 new members that are vying for a position in BRICS, or membership in BRICS. Thailand, Malaysia, Zimbabwe, and Colombia. See, the more countries that join BRICS, the harder it is for the American dollar to hold its position as a global currency. If they don't have this global currency, they won't be able to sell any bonds. Nobody will want the bonds. They won't be able to print unlimited amounts of money. How are they going to pay for those 800 military bases around the world? They're not. How are they going to service their $40 trillion debt? You see, it wouldn't be so bad if they had a $40 trillion debt if they had the infrastructure that warranted the debt, but they don't. They spend it all on poof, bombs, guns, military bases around the world, giving it to places like the Ukraine, 20-year war in Afghanistan, to Iraq, to you name it. And you've seen it over the years, and it goes on and on and on. Where, as I said before, China was spending all of those dollars on infrastructure and partnerships around the world. So it just goes to show that if you push your weight around, if you take advantage of people, countries, whatever, around the world, sooner or later they're going to get together and they're going to turn on you. And pretty soon the BRICS conglomeration of countries is going to be a lot stronger than the Americans and their little cronies, and I was not looking at those pretty girls, and their little cronies around the world. And as the West gets weaker and the global South and China, Russia get stronger, well, you can see which way this is going. You see the streets of the United States, you see the homeless camps, you see the drug addicts, you see the crime, you see the despair in the people's faces, the bankruptcies, the cost of medical services, all of these things that are going on in the United States, Canada, Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, Europe as a whole type thing. You see this is going on, and then you look at a place like China, a foreigner walking down the street with a camera in his hand. It's clean, it's safe, there's no drug addicts, there's no violence. If I want to get on a high-speed train and travel 500 kilometers outside of Nanning, it costs me about 20 bucks and I'll be there in 2 hours. If I want to jump on an airplane and head to Manila, it costs me 100 bucks, and that's about a 2.5-hour flight. If I want to get on a subway in my area of Nanning and travel all the way down to the Chaoyang area in a city of 9 million people, it costs me 40 cents. Okay, now you get to a place like New York City, you don't even want to go on the subway. Why? Because it's dangerous and dirty and expensive. They don't have any high-speed trains. They don't have good roads. It's the whole world over there is sort of falling apart, and it's because of the government. Well, it's not just the government; it's the corporations that run the government. Because it's not your politicians that run your country anymore. It's the corporations that run the country, and the corporations do it with the almighty dollar. Pretty soon that dollar ain't going to be worth nothing. They'll be doing it in Chinese RMB or Russian rubles or rupees or whatever. It'll be based on the BRICS currency. Right now they're trading in different currencies of BRICS members, but they're talking something about October and bringing in a digital BRICS currency, which I think will be the nail in the coffin of the American dollar. So if you start thinking about all of these countries that have turned their back on the United States, have joined BRICS or are wanting to join BRICS, are in the position to actually be a BRICS member, you can see that 7 trillion will probably turn into 20 trillion in a couple of years of trade that the United States has nothing to do with. They're not going to be dealing in dollars. India is buying Russian oil and using their currency. China is buying Russian oil and Saudi oil and RMB. Oh yes, they are. So when you see these things starting to happen, it's a snowball effect. It'll just go faster and faster and faster, and before you know it, the United States is going to be in a position that they can't afford their ways that they've been dealing with stuff in the past. They won't be able to afford 800 military bases around the world. They won't be able to afford a military. They won't be able to afford, well, they haven't done any infrastructure for so many years anyway in the United States, so they haven't been able to afford that anyway. But they won't be able to afford to manipulate foreign governments. They won't be able to afford to do basically anything. They will be a bankrupt state. They will be at the mercy of the rest of the world, and I would imagine the rest of the world will not show them much mercy just for the fact that the way that they've dealt with other countries around the world over the last 80 years, they don't deserve sympathy at all. And anybody that follows the United States down this path is going to run into the same thing. Canada, Great Britain. You see all of these colonial type countries that figured that they could push their weight around because they had the almighty dollar, they had the bucks in their jeans, they had the power, they had the guns, they had, well, the world has changed. Now it's not about guns. Oh, but yes it is, because China's got the largest navy in the world. You know what I mean? So not only did they build their infrastructure, but they built their navy. You've got 1.4 billion people I think that's 3 or 4 times the population of the United States. So they've got more people to draw on. They've got a bigger economy by far. You say, oh, but more dollars are being spent in the United States. Yeah, but purchasing power parity is something that if I want to go out and buy a bowl of soup here in China, it costs me $2-3. You do that in the United States, it's $12-14. You know what I mean? You go buy a hammer, it's $1. In the States, it's $7 or $10 or whatever. It's way more expensive to buy anything. So when you look at that in an economy, the Americans are in big trouble, and the Canadians are in big trouble. The British are in big trouble, and it's of their own doing. It's their fault, and that's just the way it is. $7 trillion, guys. That's a lot of bucks for the Americans to lose in cross-border trading, and it's just getting started. You know, the BRICS conglomeration of countries is just starting to grow, and it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And as China leads it, and China has the largest economy in the world, and they build partners instead of building enemies. My goodness gracious me, that mainstream media propaganda machine isn't working very good, or else all of these countries wouldn't be joining BRICS. They would be lapdogging the United States like those colonial Western countries that will never change. Anyway, that's my take on this situation from downtown Nanning, China. You gotta love it, guys. It's about 32 degrees here already. There's a bit of a breeze. This afternoon is gonna be hotter than a $5 pistol. And like, comment, subscribe. Push that share button. Until next time, peace out. Bye now.